Letter 16. To the Honourable Daines Barrington, Selborne, November 20th, 1773. Dear Sir, in obedience to your injunctions, I sit down to give you some account of the house martin, or martlet. And if my monography of this little domestic and familiar bird should happen to meet with your approbation, I may probably soon extend my inquiries to the rest of the British hirundines, the swallow, the swift, and the bank martin. A few house martins begin to appear about the 16th of April, usually some few days later than the swallow. For some time after they appear, the hirundines in general pay no attention to the business of nidification, but play and sport about either to recruit from the fatigue of their journey, if they do migrate at all, or else that their blood may recover its true tone and texture after it has been so long benumbed by the severities of winter. About the middle of May, if the weather be fine, the martin begins to think in earnest of providing a mansion for its family. The crust or shell of this nest seems to be formed of such dirt or loam as comes most readily to hand, and is tempered and wrought together with little bits of broken straws to render it tough and tenacious. As this bird often builds against a perpendicular wall without any projecting ledge under, it requires its utmost efforts to get the first foundation firmly fixed, so that it may safely carry the superstructure. On this occasion the bird not only clings with its claws, but partly supports itself by strongly inclining its tail against the wall, making that a fulcrum, and thus steadied it works and plasters the materials into the face of the brick or stone. But then, that this work may not, while it is soft and green, pull itself down by its own weight, the provident architect has prudence and forbearance enough not to advance her work too fast, but by building only in the morning, and by dedicating the rest of the day to food and amusement, gives it sufficient time to dry and harden. About half an inch seems to be a sufficient layer for a day. Thus careful workmen, when they build mud walls, informed at first perhaps by this live bird, raise but a moderate layer at a time, and then desist, lest the work should become top-heavy, and so be ruined by its own weight. By this method, in about 10 or 12 days is formed a hemispheric nest with a small aperture towards the top, strong, compact, and warm, and perfectly fitted for all the purposes for which it was intended. But then nothing is more common than for the house sparrow, as soon as the shell is finished, to seize on it as its own, to eject the owner, and to line it after its own manner. After so much labour is bestowed in erecting a mansion, as nature seldom works in vain, martins will breed on for several years together in the same nest, where it happens to be well sheltered and secure from the injuries of weather. The shed or crust of the nest is a sort of rustic work, full of knobs and protuberances on the outside, nor is the inside of those that I have examined smooth with any exactness at all, but is rendered soft and warm and fit for incubation by a lining of small straws, grasses, and feathers, and sometimes by a bed of moss interwoven with wool. In this nest they tread, or engender, frequently during the time of building, and the hen lays from 3 to 5 white eggs. At first, when the young are hatched, and are in a naked and helpless condition, the parent birds, with tender assiduity, carry out what comes away from their young, Was it not for this affectionate cleanliness, the nestlings would soon be burnt up and destroyed in so deep and hollow a nest by their own caustic excrement. In the quadruped creation, the same neat precaution is made use of, particularly among dogs and cats, where the dams lick away what proceeds from their young. But in birds there seems to be a particular provision that the dung of nestlings is enveloped into a tough kind of jelly, and therefore is the easier conveyed off without soiling or daubing. Yet, as nature is cleanly in all her ways, the young perform this office for themselves in a little time by thrusting their tails out at the aperture of their nest. As the young of small birds presently arrive at their helicia, or full growth, they soon become impatient of confinement, and sit all day with their heads out at the orifice, where the dams, by clinging to the nest, supply them with food from morning to night. For a time the young are fed on the wing by their parents, but the feat is done by so quick and almost imperceptible a sleight that a person must have attended very exactly to their motions before he would be able to perceive it. As soon as the young are able to shift for themselves, the dams immediately turn their thoughts to the business of a second brood, while the first flight, shaken off and rejected by their nurses, congregate in great flocks, and are the birds that are seen clustering and hovering on sunny mornings and evenings round towers and steeples, and on the balms of churches and houses. These congregations usually begin to take place about the first week in August, and therefore we may conclude that by that time the first flight is pretty well over. The young of this species do not quit their abodes altogether, but the more forward birds get abroad some days before the rest. These, approaching the eaves of buildings and playing about before them, make people think that several old ones attend one nest. They are often capricious in fixing on a nesting place, beginning many edifices and leaving them unfinished. But when once a nest is completed in a sheltered place, it serves for several seasons. Those which breed in a ready-finished house get the start in hatching of those that build new by 10 days or a fortnight. These industrious artificers are at their labours in the long days before 4 in the morning. When they fix the materials, they plaster them on with their chins, moving their heads with a quick vibratory motion. They dip and wash as they fly, sometimes in very hot weather, but not so frequently as swallows. It has been observed that martins usually build to a northeast or northwest aspect, that the heat of the sun may not crack and destroy their nests. But instances are also remembered where they breed for many years in vast abundance, in a hot stifled inn-yard, against a wall facing to the south. Birds in general are wise in their choice of situation, but in this neighbourhood every summer is seen a strong proof to the contrary at a house without eaves in an exposed district, where some martins build year by year in the corners of the windows. But as the corners of these windows, which face to the southeast and southwest, are too shallow, the nests are washed down every hard rain. And yet these birds drudge on to no purpose from summer to summer, without changing their aspect or house. It is a piteous sight to see them labouring when half their nest is washed away and bringing dirt. Generis lapsi, sarcere ruinas. Editor's note. To repair the ruins of their fallen race. Translation Peter Yearsley. From Virgil's Georgics, Book 4, line 249. End note. Thus is instinct a most wonderful, unequal faculty, in some instances so much above reason, in other respects so far below it. Martens love to frequent towns, especially if there are great lakes and rivers at hand. Nay, they even affect the close air of London. And I have not only seen them nesting in the Borough, but even in the Strand and Fleet Street. But then it was obvious from the dinginess of their aspect that their feathers partook of the filth of that sooty atmosphere. Martens are by far the least agile of the 4 species. Their wings and tails are short, and therefore they are not capable of such surprising turns and quick and glancing evolutions as the swallow. Accordingly, they make use of a placid, easy motion in a middle region of the air, seldom mounting to any great height, and never sweeping long together over the surface of the ground or water. They do not wander far for food, but affect sheltered districts over some lake or under some hanging wood, or in some hollow vale, especially in windy weather. They breed the latest of all the swallow kind. In 1772 they had nestlings on to October the 21st, and are never without unfledged young as late as Michaelmas. As the summer declines, the congregating docks increase in numbers daily by the constant accession of the second broods, till at last they swarm in myriads upon myriads round the villages on the Thames, darkening the face of the sky as they frequent the gates of that river where they roost. They retire, the bulk of them I mean, in vast flocks together about the beginning of October, but have appeared of late years in a considerable flight in this neighbourhood, for one day or two, as late as November the 3rd and 6th, after they were supposed to have been gone for more than a fortnight. They therefore withdraw with us, the latest of any species. Unless these birds are very short-lived indeed, or unless they do not return to the district where they are bred, they must undergo vast devastations somehow and somewhere, for the birds that return yearly bear no manner of proportion to the birds that retire. House martens are distinguished from their congeners by having their legs coveted with soft downy feathers down to their toes. They are no songsters, but twitter in a pretty, inward, soft manner in their nests. During the time of breeding they are often greatly molested with fleas. I am, etc.,